Voila. So yesterday we studied a little bit how can we compare two functions in matter of performance time and also in matter of memory consume, how much this function consume memory. So let's go back and create these two functions. And after that, I will answer Rodica's question because it's actually quite a nice question. So let's take what was the number? I think it was log num number 1. I will just name it log num1. Both of them I will create an arrow function like that. I'm taking as a parameter, of course, num, like that. And here I need to loop through. So I will say for let I is equal to 0, as long as I is less or equal to num, and then I'm gonna log it. That was the first function, if you remember, right? Yes or no? The second function was we are using recursion. So it doesn't matter, it's just an example. Of course, you can use any function, but yeah. The second example here is checking if num is equal to 0, then I should, if num is equal to 0, then I should log the num and then return. So log num, no, just log console.log. Log, which is, where is the log? Console.log, yes, that's it. And after that, I need to return. Because if it's 0, I don't want to go anymore, so I need to return here. And of course, if not the case, then what I can do here, I can console.log num if I want to, and then I can call again with num minus 1. So I'm calling the function itself. Now I will start with num, and after that, num minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, minus 5, and so on, and so on, and so on. I think this function, both functions are clear. So what these both functions are doing, they are doing the same job. This one here is logging a number from 0 to specific number I am passing. So it will log 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 until this number num, whatever is the value I am passing. The second function here, I'm passing num as well. So what's going to do here, we'll check if num is 0, then it will log 0, and then it will stop the function because I want it until 0. If that's not the case, it will log num, then it will call the function again with num minus 1. So it will start, it will log num, then num minus 1, minus 2, minus 3 until it reaches 0. When it reaches 0, it will stop. So technically, these functions, both of functions are doing the same job. The only difference is they are doing it in a reverse. So here we are logging from 0 until num. Here we are logging from num until 0. Now, to calculate the time consumed, which function is faster? It's really simple. I'll show you. The easiest way is use console.time. So what I can do here, I can just say console.time, as you can see, and here I can pass any string I want to. That will be the message. The message it will show me. So it's a good idea to use the name of the function so I know that's the function I am calling. And then I'm gonna call my function with 1000 for now. And then I need to end it with console.timeInt. Why? Because when I say time, it will start to calculate the time. When I say timeInt, it will stop. And like that, it will calculate the time for me, and it will give me the final time. If I want to do with the same function, it's simple. I'll do the same function, and voila. Now, of course, if I'm gonna run this code here, it will give me a lot of logs. I don't want these logs. So what I can do here, I can comment them because I'm really not interested in the logs. I'm interested just in the time. I'm gonna open my terminal and I will run it in Node. You can run it in JavaScript also in the browser if you want to. So I can just say Node main.js. And as you can see here, it's telling me log num1 is taking 0.2 millisecond, but log num2 is taking 0.06 millisecond. So this function here, this guy here, it's much faster comparing to this one. You can imagine this way, 0.6, so this one is 6, this is 20. In 20, we have 3 sticks. So this function, which is log num2, is faster at least 3 times. That should be simple. Okay, but now when we come to the memory, and here memory, the memory is a little bit complex to calculate. It's not an easy actually to calculate. Normally in the front end, we calculate the memory or the memory leak, which I will explain later on the browser using the tab performance I've showed you yesterday. But for now here, as you can see, it's just a function, so it doesn't make sense to do all of that. So what I can do here, I can use Node. In Node, we have something called process.memory used, and it will give me how much memory is used at this time. So what should I do? I can just say const, I can say memory or heap before calling, what's the name of the function here? Before log num1. So I'm declaring a variable, and here I can use process.memory used. Now the memory used here, if I log it now, let's just log it. Let's just log here like that, just to show what it will give me. So when I say process.memory usage, memory usage is a method, as you know. Process here is an object. It will return me this method here. It will return me an object. So let's try to run it. As you can see here, it will give me an object. So I have some stuff here. I have RSS, I have heap total, I have heap used, I have external, I have array buffer. For me, RSS, that means the residual memory. I don't care about what's interesting for me is the heap used. How much heap did I use? And here it give me this number, as you can see. And this number here, it will be in bytes actually. And by the way, the byte is not huge. I mean, byte is small. So this size here, it will be in heap. But remember, this size, it will not be only the memory consumed by my function. It will be the memory consumed by node in total. So I'm calculating total way. That will be with everything that's the node used here. That should be fine, but I'm not interested in all of those. I'm interested in the heap used, as you can see. So if I click on this one here, of course, it will return an object, as you can see, so I can just say heap used. And now here, if I try to calculate the heap used, it will give me certain number, as you can see, 3140456, which is in bytes. That's fine. So here it's giving me the size of the heap used at this point. So what I can do now, after I calculate this one here, which is a memory before logging num1, I can call num1, call my function, and then I can also calculate the memory after I call num1. And like that, I can know approximately how much memory this, when I call my function, how much memory approximately is being used. How can I do that? Well, it's quite simple. I can just say, no, not like that. I can just say const memory used by log1, log num1. So I can just take the final value, which will be greater, of course. I'll take the final value, which will be, this one should be actually, no, that's fine. So here I will take memory after log num1 minus memory before the log 1. And like that here, if I just log this value, it will give me how much memory is being consumed approximately by my function, as you can see, which will be here 251,448 bytes. Bytes, as I told you, it's small unit. It's not a large unit. So byte is consumed of 8 bit. Each bit here is 0 and 1, so it's not really that huge. Okay, now if I want to calculate the memory approximately the heap used for the second function, I can do the same calculation, which we seen yesterday here. I can say memory before log num2 process.memory.heap used, and now I can call my function here, but I need to call it with the same number. Actually, this one is too much. Let's call it with 1,000. I don't want to call it with 100,000. I want to call it with 1,000. Okay. Now I'm going to calculate the memory after I call my function, which is log num2, same idea. And now here I can approximately define how much memory is being used by calling num2. And now here from my code here, am I logging it? No, I'm not logging it. So let me log it here. Voila. And now here it will compare both of them. Clicky. And as you can see, the memory used by log num1 is 1,720 bytes, by num2 is 240. So we define that, okay, for at least for this example, using the function log num2 is a bit more performance compared to log num1. Why? Because it needs less time and also it consuming less memory or less heap. Is the idea clear? Yes, no?
Yes.
Perfect. Now I've called my function with 1,000. Let's make it 5,000. Notice I will keep the number. Let's make it 5,000 here. And let's make this one also 5,000. Now, normally, Well, see, I see that the memory did not change. Can anyone tell me why? Remember, this memory, it's a heap. Huh? Why the size of the heap is constant? Why is not changing? If I call the same function here, so if I call this function and this function, I call them 1,000 times or 5,000 times, I see that the size of the heap is the same. Why? In this example, it's not never gonna change. There is a reason for that, but in general, it should change actually. Okay, to know why the size of the heap is not changing, what do we store in the heap? What JavaScript store in the heap? What JavaScript store in the heap? Guys, what do we store in the heap?
Object.
Objects, what else?
Reference data types.
Yes, but you know reference data type. So object, what else? Arrays and function. What's the problem with you guys? So in the heap, we store either function or object or arrays. In my function here, am I creating any function inside the function here? Am I creating any function, or am I creating any object, or am I creating any array? Inside my function, am I creating any object or array or function?
No.
No, that's the reason why the heap is not changing, because I'm not creating anything here. So if I call this function 10 times or million times, it will not change the size of the heap, because simply I'm not creating anything. I'm not creating any object. I'm not creating any array. I'm not creating any function. So the size will never be changed. Same idea here. So I'm not creating anything here. And that's the reason why the size is not changing in this example. But what if I come to my function and I declare a variable and I say const array like that, and I came here and instead of logging the number, I would push it to my array. Notice. And instead of doing that also, I will come here, and now here I will also create an array. Const ARR, and in here I just push this number. So I can just say ARR dot push num, and I can do the same here. ARR dot push num. So as you can see, what I'm doing in my function now here, well, I am creating an array, and then I'm pushing this number inside this array. And as you know, array is a reference type. So that means each time I'm calling this function here, if I call it with 1,000, I have 1,000 item in the array. If I call it with 5,000, well, it will change, because the size of the array, it will be changed. And now here, if I call my function now again, let's run our script. See, the size is changing, right? They are not like before. Now they are changing. So here 15838, and here 627656, right? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you get the idea? So yeah, now I'm calling my function. Of course, if I call it 1,000 times, it will not be the same. Why? Because each time I'm calling this function, I'm creating a reference data type, and it will be stored in the heap. This memory here, it's for the heap. And before, I was not creating anything in the heap, so it's normal the size of the heap, it will stay, or the use size of the heap, it will stay the same. But now I am creating an array. And now here, if I change this one to 1,000 and this one to 1,000, it should take less memory. Why? Because with 1,000, I am creating an array and I'm pushing 1,000 numbers, let's say. Before, I was pushing 5,000 number. So let's see. So as you can see now, if I compare this number and these numbers, they are not the same. This one is less than this one. Why? Because before I was using it with 5,000, now I am using it with 1,000. And if I use it, for example, with 100, it should even consume less memory. With 100, and let's run it and compare all of them. So that's 5,000, 1,000, and 100. So as you can see, the 100 is take less memory, of course, 407211188824. Is the idea clear?
Yes.
Yeah, now you know, Rodica, why the memory was not changing when I call it with 1,000 and 5,000, because simply in my function, I was not creating any reference data type. I was not changing the use size of the heap. But now in my function, I'm creating an array, I'm adding a new item in the heap, and of course, the size will be changed depending on the number. because here in my array, I'm pushing 100 number. If I push 100 numbers, the size will be smaller, but if I push 1,000, it will be a little bit bigger. 5,000, it will be even bigger. Is it okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Samir, on the line 23, log num1 in parentheses inside there is 100. What does all those numbers? What do they mean?
This number you mean?
Uh-huh.
So this number, when I call my function, as you can see, I am saying, and I'm gonna pass the number. So what will happen here? I'm creating an array, and then I'm looping from 0 to 100, and then I'm pushing this number inside this array.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
What happened to this array? We store it in the memory, in the heap, because it's a reference data type. Same idea here. I'm creating an array. I'm checking if the num is 0, then I'm gonna push it to the array, and I'm gonna stop this function. If not, then I'm gonna push my number, then I'm gonna call my function again, but not with num minus 1. So if it's 100, now it will become 99, then 98, then 97, then until it becomes 0, it will stop my function. Clear, Daria?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Now I think the memory and how to calculate the performance of, or how to compare the performance of two functions should be 100% clear, right? Yes, for everyone?
Yes.
I've already shared the code with you, so you don't really need this code for now. Okay, now what was the second point I need to explain? Okay, let's go now to, let me explain this point here. I've seen a lot of you yesterday, they're using function declaration. So let's use two simple function. So I can just say const sum1. On sum1, I will use an arrow function, as you can see. So I'm taking A and B, or I can name it num1 and num2. So let's make it a little bit clear, num1 and num2. So what my arrow function is doing here is just, it's returning the sum of these two numbers, as you can see. So I can just say num1 plus num2. Of course, I told you the arrow function, they have a lot of some special thing. That means if the rate here, if I just it's one line, I don't need the rate to use the return, and also I don't need the body of the function. That's what you call the body of the function. So I don't need that if it's one line. Voila. So that should be simple. Now let's create a second function using function declaration. So I will name function like that, sum2. It take two numbers, and here it returns the sum. So both functions are doing the same, but the problem or the difference between them, this is arrow function, this is a function declaration, right? Should be simple, huh? Arrow function.
In the first function, there is a mistake, num1 and num1, and num1 plus num1.
Oh yeah, because I named the two variables the same. You're right. Okay, that should be cool now, right? It's fine. Now, there is actually some differences between arrow function and function declaration. So before, if you remember when I explained both, I told you there is some differences between the two. I'm going to explain later, right? And now we will explain it. So what is the first difference? So the first difference here is, actually, let me create the body here. Yes, I don't need to create it, but let me create the body just so you see both here. Let's return num1 plus num2. Num1 plus num2. So mostly it's the same now. Okay, fine. Now here, what if, now if I call, of course, num1, so let's now work on num1 for now. If I call num1, for example, with 1 and 2, you know, it will give me no problem. It will give me 3. Of course, I cannot see it because I'm not logging it. So it shouldn't be a problem here. So let's go to our live server like that. Click, refresh. And as you can see, I don't have any problem. Actually, if I go through my code here, and here's the sum, now it will return me. As you can see, it will return me the sum here. Everything is fine. There is no problem. It's normal. It's just I'm calling the function. But what if I call my function before I declare it? What do you think it will happen? Let me comment this function for now. So I have an arrow function, and I'm calling my function before I creating or declaring my function. What do you think it will happen? Hello?
Undefined.
Error.
Undefined. I will get actually an error. So let's see. Let's get rid of this one. Let's refresh. Let's run it again. And as you can see, I'm getting an error. What's the error say? Reference error, cannot access someone before initialization. So they are just telling me, okay, you cannot call your function before you declare the function. That's simply what they are telling me. So in arrow function, I cannot call the function before declaring the function. Voila. Simply because this function here, the arrow functions, they are arrow function in general, they are not hoisted. You may tell me what is hoisting? I'll tell you what's hoisting now. Just relax. Now here, what if I call some 2? So let's try to call some 2 now with 1 and 2. What do you think it will happen? Let me remove the debugger. What do you think it will happen?
It's working.
Yeah, I want someone else. What do you think it will happen?
It's working.
No, why?
I believe
Because we declare it before
Because we declare it what?
the function and after we call.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, my mistake. I'm talking about some 2 here.
Ah,
Now it changed, my mistake. So I'm talking about the second function, which is function declaration. And now, as you can see, is the same condition here. I try to call someone with arrow function and give me an error. Now I'm trying to call the second function, which is function declaration. And what do you think it will happen?
It will work
Dinyan, do not answer the question. It will work. Why?
because the function declaration is different.
Yeah, how is it different?
So you can call the function before and after the declaration. It doesn't matter.
Actually, it is working because I don't have any error. Now I don't see the result because I'm not logging it, of course, but they are working. And to convince you here, let's log the result just in case. Log. And here, let's put the result. Save it. And now, as you can see, we have 3. So the first difference between arrow function and function declaration is arrow function are not hoisted, but function declaration are hoisted. What do I mean by that? Well, when JavaScript execute my code like that, even before it execute my code. So what JavaScript is doing actually is they are doing 2 scans, not 1 scan. So the first scan is doing it very quickly. It searches for function declaration and variables. If there is any variables or function declaration variables using let const and var, or any function declaration, it's kind of moving it to the top. It's kind of course, it's not practically, I mean, it's not will move it to the top in my script, no. But JavaScript moves this function declaration and any variable to the top of the script. It's kind of just moving it to the top. And after that, because it's moving it to the top, I can call it even before I declare the function. Is the idea clear? Yes, no?
yes.
So what's happening here now, let's just go back to our guy here. Is a debugger. And click it. And here I'm gonna create a variable, just any variable. I will just name it name, for example, const name. Actually, let me use it's fine. Let's just use whatever it is. Const. So const name is equal to John, for example. And now notice what will happen here. If I go to my script and refresh like that, let's refresh. Voila. Notice I'm stopping here. I did not execute my script yet, right? Because I have a debugger statement at line 1. So I did not execute this code yet. Okay, if I did not execute this code yet, how could JavaScript know that I have a variable called name? And how could JavaScript know that I have another variable called someone? Because someone is a variable. So how could JavaScript knows and show me here, as you can see, num and someone? Can anyone explain how could JavaScript know? Yeah. Anyone can answer? Dinian, you can answer too. So the question is simple. Now I'm stopping my script at the top, as you can see, at line 1. I did not execute this code yet. How could JavaScript know that I have a variable name and I have a variable someone? Mm-hmm.
Because JavaScript is smart.
It's what?
Smart.
Yeah, of course it's smart. Yeah, it's smart, I know. So what JavaScript is doing actually is making two scans. So
Yeah.
it's going through your script two times, not one time. The first time it scanned very quickly for variables, and function declaration. And if it find any variable or function declaration, it's kind of moving it to the top. It's like it's there already. They know about them already. And then when I execute the code, it already know. And that's the reason why I can call a function declaration even before I declare it. Because JavaScript already knows the first scan when you do it already knows that is this function declaration, and it's kind of moving it to the top. It's already know about it. And it already knows that this is a variable and move it to the top. And that's the reason why it gave me num1, sum1. Of course, the value is not known. Why? Because I did not execute my script yet. But JavaScript knows that this is a variable, and it knows that this is a variable. So in general, variables with const or let or var, it doesn't matter. Variables, function declaration like that, and classes. Well, you don't know what class in JavaScript yet. Those three are guys, they are hosted. What do I mean by hosted? Well, it's kind of when JavaScript executes a code, it makes two scans. So it goes through your script actually two times. The first time is go quickly searching for variables or function declaration or even a class. So if there is any one of those, it's kind of remembers that and move it to the top. And then here, that's the reason why I can call my function, even if it's function declaration, of course, even before I declare my function. Is the idea clear? That's what we call hoisting. Is it clear?
Yes.
I've shared with you an article which is explained in detail what's hoisting, but that's simply what's hoisting mean. So hoisting means JavaScript kind of to make two scans, so it does not go through your code line by line in reality. I told you that, that's correct. But before that, it go quickly do one scan. The first time it's looking for variables, it's looking for function declaration, this one, and it's looking for classes. If any of those there, JavaScript kind of moving them to the top of the script. Yes, they don't have a value. So now, yes, my name here, it does not have a value because I did not execute my code line by line. But JavaScript knows that this is a variable. So if I now log name, it will just give me undefined. It will not give me an error. Why? Because it's a variable and function declaration and classes are hosted. That's being they kind of move it to the top. Is the idea clear? Yep. No.
Yes.
That means if you have a function declaration, you can call it before or after. But if you have an arrow function are not hosted. That means you cannot call your function before you declare it. You only need to call it after you declare it. That's the first difference between arrow function and function declaration. Good? Yes, no.
Yes.
Perfect. Now here, because we understand this one, I'm going to remove this one here. And I'm going to declare three variables using const. By the way, const and let are the same. So they have the same behavior. So a var here and say var is equal to 25. Now, as you can see, I'm going to just remove this one. Let's start with var. First, let's start with var. I have a variable which is age 25. If I try to log the variable age before I declare it, of course, I told you all variable are hosted. So all variable with var, with let, with const, they are hosted, but they behave a little bit differently. What do I mean by that? Now with var, if I am using var and I'm trying to log the age before I declare it, it will not give me an error. It will just give me undefined, as you can see. So it will give me undefined. That's the behavior. It just means all variable are hosted, I know. But again, there is difference between var and let and const. So let and const, they behave the same, except one difference is just const, you cannot reassign the variable. With let you can. But there is another difference with var and let and const, which is related to hoisting. So now I'm declaring variable age 25. If I try to log the variable, it does not give me any error, just give me undefined. But what if I try to declare it with let or const? Let and const are the same. If I do so, I am getting an error. Why? It say cannot access age before initialization. Yes, all variables are hosted, but the behavior of const and let and var are different. So with var, it will not give me any error, but when I declare a variable with let and const, even if they are hosted, their behavior here, it will show an error. Is the idea clear? Yes, no? Perfect. Of course, this behavior, which is hosting, is sometimes it's useful. That's what I want. Sometimes it's not what I want. It depends. It's not good or bad. It just depends what do you want. Sometimes I want to gather all my function at the bottom of my code and then call them at the top. If that's the case, so you need to use function declaration because function declaration are hosted. If you want to use the variables this way, it's a good idea, for example, to use var, maybe. Why? Var, I don't have any value. Normally, we don't use it with the variable because the variable will never give me the value. We use it with function because the function will be able to execute. But yeah, and anyway, you need to know that there is a different in variable behavior if I declare it with const, let, or var. Why? Because yes, all variables are hosted, but when I try to call or try to access a variable you declared by let or const before I initialize it, it will give me an error. But with var, it will not give me an error. It will just tell me it's undefined. I think the idea is 100% clear now. Yes? Yes, no? Okay, good. That's what we call hosting. So simply hosting, we use it for variables. We use it with function declaration and also with classes, which you don't know yet. I've shared with you a very nice article. You can read it and you see how all of them behave the same. Remember, all variables are hosted, all function declaration are hosted, and also all classes. Of course, with function here, function declaration, because they are hosted, I can call it even before I declare the function. With variables, it's in general bad idea to call the variable before I initialize it and I give it a value. But if you don't want any error in your console, you can use var, because var here, it will not give you any errors. There's a behavior different between var and let and const. But if you use let and const, it will throw an error. Okay? Should be good. So that was the first difference between arrow function and function declaration. There is another difference also, except hosting. So the second difference is related to the keyword this. So what the hell is this? This here is a keyword in JavaScript. Now here is a bit confusing even for advanced developer, even for people who have a lot of experience. This keyword is a little bit confusing. This keyword always refer to an object. All the time it refer to an object. But it depends where you are calling it. So depending where this object, it will be different. Again, this always refers to an object. But the problem here, depending on where you are calling this object, it will be different. For example, if I just log now this, what do you think it will give me? So without anything, if I'm logging this one, what do you think it will give me?
We
Yeah.
log this.
No, it will refer to the Windows, the biggest object in JavaScript. As you can see. See? Rodiga, this it's something in JavaScript. It's a keyword in JavaScript. It's not a string, it's nothing, it's keyword. All the time I told you this refers to an object, all the time. So if in my script I log this, it refers to the biggest object in JavaScript, which will be the Windows, as you know. So the Windows is the biggest object in JavaScript. But let's create now two objects. I can say const, let's name it, I don't know, test1. Voila, like that. And here name is test. And here, as I told you, inside the object, we can have a method, right? So now here, let's say age is 20, and now here get info. So I will create a method, I will name it get info. and get info here, it will be a function, as you can see, return, voila. So now here, in this function here, I created inside my object, which now we call it a method. I want to return this dot name is this dot age. So if I am using a function declaration and I am inside the object, this it will refer to my object. How could I know that? Let's notice it. So let's see. So now what I need to do here, I just need to log. Now I will need to call my function, my object. My object is test1, and then I can call my method here. Remember, this one is the method get info, and because it's the method, I need to execute it, right? And now if I go now to my console, as you can see, test is 20 years old because the name is test. So let's rename it to John Doe. Voila.
Samir,
Hmm.
can you
What?
go back? Can you use in console log instead of test1 this get info and call this function?
Can we again, Daria? What was the
So the line number 9, console log test1 dot get info, and you call this function instead of test1. Can we use this dot get info and call the function?
No, because now I just explained it, Daria. Because when you are here, you are not inside the function. This refer to the Windows. Here, that's the problem with this, because if I use this here refer it to the Windows object, not to my object here. You got my point?
Mhm.
So when this is in the global context, it refers to the Windows, not in my object. But when I am inside, I have a method and I am using function declaration. Notice, because with arrow function is different also. That's the second difference I'm trying to explain. So if I am using function declaration and I am inside the object, this here, it will change and it will refer to my object here.
Okay, so this we can use only inside the object.
Yes, only in the inside, I'm telling you. So if I am inside an object, and inside the object, I have a method, and this method here, we are using function declaration, as you can see.
Yeah, thank you.
And this, it will refer to my object. But here, if I use this, it will not work because this here is different here. It's the Windows here. So this here, it's my object.
Mhm.
As you can see, it's test1.
Mhm.
But this here is different. And that's what will make a little bit confusing because not all this has the same value. Okay?
Okay.
Is it clear? Good. Now let's try to do the second one here. Let's create another arrow function. Because my objective now, I'm trying to explain the difference between arrow function and function declaration. So let's name it again, get info, but I will name it get info 2, for example. And here I need to use arrow function, as you can see. So I'm just creating an arrow function like that, as you can see. And let's put the same code here exactly. Do you think it will work or not? If I use this dot, so here, voila. Of course, this one, it will not work. I need to replace it with test1. I told you because here it referred to the global window object Windows. So I've answered your question, Daria. Now my question is, I have function declaration, and this here inside function declaration, it referred to my object. I have another method which is get info 2. And here it's returning the same thing, which is this dot name is this dot age, so it's the same exactly. But can I do that? So let's try to call get info 2 and see it will work or not. Do you think it will work or not?
Yes.
I'm calling this one get info 2. Do you think it will work?
I think yes.
Now with get info 1, it's work. Get info, it work. Let's name it 1 just so we don't have any confusion. Let's try this one. So with get info 1, actually it's working perfectly, not a problem. But now the question is with get info 2. So Rodica is telling me it will work. What do you think? Any other stuff? Any other opinion?
I'm agree with Rodica.
Sorry, Daria.
I'm agree with Rodica. I think it will work.
Do you think it will work or not?
Yes.
It will work. Well, I hate to tell you that, but it will not work actually. Why? Because now let's go inside this function here, my function, when I'm using function declaration, and let's log this. If I log this here, it will be my object. But inside arrow function, if I log this is not, it does not give me my object. It will give me the Windows object. And if I try to run it here, as you can see, it gave me actually the Windows. And here it's undefined, as you can see, because I don't have this property inside the Windows. Did you get the idea?
Not really. Why we got the window instead of object?
You are not sure why?
Yeah, why?
Why is this one, this here, this one is not working and this one is working? That's your question, Daria, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm telling you why. Because there is difference between function declaration and arrow function. The first difference was hoisting. I explained what is hoisting. The second difference with the keyword is. What do I mean by that? Well, if we are using function declaration inside the object, this refers to the object. But when I'm using an arrow function is not like function declaration. The Z with this keyword here, it does not refer to the object, it refers again to the global object, which will be the Windows. Most of the time with arrow function, most of the time, these always refer to, not always, but most of the time, refer to the global object, which is called the Windows. But with function declaration, it is different. That's how JavaScript work. That's the second difference, which is, the difference between this keyword. Is it quite clear what I'm trying to explain?
So to avoid confusion, with inside the object, we need to use only a function declaration.
No, of course not. Now here, instead of using this, what can I do? Can I use something else? Instead of this here.
Test one.
Please. Yes, that was right, actually. It was test.
Test one.
So I can just use test one. Voila. And it will work. Let's go. And while it's working, John Doe is 20 years old. John Doe is 20 years old. I'm not using the keyword this. Voila. Is it quite clear? Yes, no.
Yes, but why do we need two different options? What's the difference between them? So for one project, I mean, like a developer, I can take a habit, just use arrow function with test one, and never use this
Sure.
inside the object. What's the difference in real world?
Well, the difference in real world, you need to know what this keyword is doing, because actually in real project, if you can use this keyword, is kind of a little bit elegant. It's nice, actually. If I'm allowed, instead of writing the name of the object again and again, I can just say this dot name and this dot age, which would be more practical. But again, you need to understand there is a difference between the two. And the difference between the two is function declaration. This refers to my object, but this one does not refer to my object.
So there is no
big difference here. Also, I can use test1.name. But of course, if you know the keyword this, it will be, I think, more elegant, better way to use this instead of using a test one. You
Okay,
guys,
so there is no best practice. It's just a matter of your own preference.
actually, there is best practice. The best practice is to using this. If you are using if you are inside function declaration, it's better to use this. I'm telling you. So it's still doing the same job, as you can see, no different. But here, instead of writing this one, because here what I'm doing, I'm referencing object inside an object. Now here in this example, as you can see, I'm accessing test one, and remember, I am inside test one. And sometimes that causes problem for my code. You got the idea, Daria? So in complex stuff, when I refer to an object inside an object, sometimes it causes trouble. So using this keyword, if I can, it will be much better. If I can, of course. But if I cannot, then I can just refer to the object inside the object itself. Is it clear, Daria?
Yes, yes.
So whenever you can use the keyword this, it's a good idea to use it. But if you cannot use it, don't use it. For example, with function declaration, I am inside an object. I am using function declaration. I know that this keyword refer to my object. If I don't know, I can log it and see, make sure that they refer to my object. And then I can use the keyword this, which is more elegant and cause less destruction. And also it avoid me some trouble in the future. Example. But in this example, I cannot use the keyword this. Why? Because simply, as you can see, this refer to the global windows because I'm using arrow function. And voila. So in this example, I will have to use or refer to the object inside the object. Is it quite clear, guys?
Mhm.
And that's the second difference between function declaration and arrow function. So the first difference is, of course, the syntax, which you know the difference between the two. Second difference is hosting. The third difference is this keyword, as you can see. So if I am inside an object, this keyword inside function declaration, it refers to my object, but inside arrow function, no. Most of the time, inside arrow functions, these refer to the global object, which is the Windows. I think that's clear if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. No? Maybe? Voila. Guys, is it okay or not? Absolutely silence. That means you did not understand what I'm saying. Again, there is three difference between function declaration and arrow functions. The first difference is the syntax. As you know, the syntax is different. The second difference is hosting. I show you the hosting. So when I'm using function declaration, I can call the function even before I create the function or initialize the function. With arrow function, no, it doesn't work this way. The third difference is if I am inside an object and I have an function declaration, I can use, instead of referencing to my object, I can access my object using this keyword. And if I hover over it in VS Code, as you can see, it's telling me this refer to my object. But in here, if I hover over it, it's telling me, no, it's a global this. That means it refer to the global object, which is Windows. Okay. I will not explain more. I know this keyword sometimes is confusing, but just remember what I told you. If you can use this keyword and you are using function declaration, you are inside the object, it will be more elegant and better to use this keyword instead of referring to your object. But if you cannot, then stick with just calling your object, like in case of arrow function. I think that should be clear 100% as well, if I'm not mistaken. If it's not clear, let me know. We'll explain it again and again. Okay, I've shared with you an article about hosting. I've shared with you an article about this keyword. You can go through it again. So with this keyword here, we will not use this keyword now, but it's a good idea to know some information. In the future, maybe we'll use it. We use it a lot in object-oriented programming. That's when we use classes and object in JavaScript. Okay, the last concept I'm going to explain, which is two concepts actually, which you already know. We have function design. Actually, I need to explain it, but anyway. So I've shared with you this code with you again, both of you. I've shared all of that with you already. Control Z like that. Yes. So, yeah, let me add some comment like that. And let me add this comment like that. And let me click this one. And this one. That's too long. And this one. So let's go to our project today or our repo today. So if I go back to my repo and behavior strategy implementation, We already explained the solution right up. I've already give you two examples. It was the first and the second example, which is add up numbers. If you did not finish your project, you can continue. When I'm done here, you can continue spending few hours to finish your project. That's okay. Now here, I need to explain something which is called function design. Function design is not that difficult, actually. So let's go to function design and see what's going on here. So function design, as you can see, it's how can I write a function? So I have a problem. I need to write a function to solve this problem. So what approach I can do? Here they are telling you maybe it will be good idea to just write general code, just like, for example, the name of the function and the parameter I need. Then I need to write this. Then I need to find a strategy or plan to solve the problem. Then I need to implement it. So that's one approach. Of course, you can read that, but I'm going to explain just in that's what we call test-driven development. So here they are preferring to write the test first, then the function. Well, in practical life, we have two approaches actually. First, we have something called test-driven development, which we call it TDD, from test-driven development. And we have a second approach, which is called test-last development, TLD. What's the difference between the two? Well, both of them, they are doing the same job. They're trying to find a solution for a problem by writing a function or whatever it is. So they're trying to solve a problem, but the order is different in these two approaches. So in test-driven development, first, we write our test, and after that, we write our function or solution, and so on. I explained this one before. So it's approach in software development where the developer write automated tests. So first we write test, and then we write the code we need to solve the problem. Now, of course, this way, which is called TDD or test-driven development, is used in some companies. It has some advantage and some disadvantages as well. Same idea, test-last development. It's simple as that's what you've been doing. So you write your code, and after that, you write test for them. It's the approach where the developer writes the production code, then write test for them, simply like that. So both of them, they are doing the same job. It's just the order is different. In test-driven development, we write our test first, then we try to solve or write our code, if it's function or whatever. And in test-last development, no, we first write our code, and then after that, we write test for them. Okay, what's the difference between two? Which one is better? What do you think? What's the difference between two approach? Of course, the difference is the order. First, in test-driven development, first we write test, then code. In test-last development, we write code, then after that test. Which one do you think it's better? Which one do you think it's better?
Write the code and test it.
Hmm?
Write the code and then test it.
Write the code, then test it. Okay. Any other opinion?
The first one, TDD.
Test-driven development. You need to remember these names because even when you search for a job, there is some company asking for TDD like that, so test-driven development or test-last development. Okay, what do you think, Ahlam? Which one is better, the first one or the second one, and why? Ahlam,
Yes.
which one do you think is better? You do not take a guess. Quickly.
First one, maybe.
The first one?
Yeah.
Okay. Dinyando, what do you think? Dinyando?
TDD. First one.
TDD. Okay. Amra? What do you think? Guess. Samuel, what do you think? Which one is better, Samuel?
I think the last one, test-last development.
First one or the second one?
The last one.
The last one.
The test-last, yeah.
It's actually, my question is just like in asking you, do you like banana more or do you like orange more? It's really depend. So there is no, how can I say it? Each way has cons and pros. So for test-driven development, some company are using it. It's quite working fine to generate nice code. The problem with test-driven development is take a lot of time, more time comparing to the second one, which is test/development. And also for larger projects, sometimes it become not practical. Okay, so this one here, it take more time comparing to this one. Still some company use it, but it generate nice code like that. But for complex project, I would say it's not that practical. Of course, you can use it, but it's not that much practical comparing to this one. We are just comparing the two. Now with this one here, I would say it's faster. Maybe the code, it will be a little bit messy, little bit. And some company use both. So no, some company use this one, some company use this one. This one here for very complex project is a little bit more practical comparing to this one. Is the idea clear? So there is no really like this one is better. No, I'm gonna use no. It's really depend on the company, depend on the team. This one has some pros, as I told you. It generate more clean code and like that, but it take more time. Here, it take less time, but it generate maybe a little bit messy code. It's really depend on the team and the end. So the difference between the two is just the order. That doesn't matter. It's the same job. Test written first, voila, we don't here. Now it's telling you TDD, which is the first one, test-driven development, has advantage. It produces a cleaner code, more maintainable code. But the problem is it's just, it take more time. It consume a lot more time comparing to TLD. And I would say for me, from my experience, I think TDD for larger project is not that practical comparing to TLD. Is the idea clear? Yes? No?
Yes.
Perfect. And that simply is the function design. So the function design is what is the different step to do to write a function? Well, you have two approach, either test-driven development, either you're gonna write your test first and then come to your code, and after that write the code. And if you pass that test, that means everything is good. Or you can write your function and then write the test and voila. Which one is better is really a matter of depend on the team, it depend on the company. Both have advantage and disadvantage, so it's really depend. Some company asking for this one, and I would say there's a lot of company also using this one. So it's really depend. There is no, how can I say, there's no this one is absolutely better than this one. It's really depend, as I told you. But this one is a little bit more cleaner code, but take more time. This one take less time. And for a larger project, I will see it will be a little bit suitable. Is the idea clear?
Yes.
I've already shared this note with you, so you have everything. And that simply is the function design. It's not something new. So the function design here is just how to write a function. I told you, you have two approach here. Here, they are trying to teach you to write test first, which is test-driven development, TDD. But you need to know that there is another approach, which is TLD, which is test plus development. I've explained both for you. Here in these examples, I just explain a little bit TDD, but I explain both. I think both of them are quite important. Yes? Or no?
Yes.
Perfect. Now, if you finish your project of yesterday, in case you finish your project of yesterday, you can go to Remix and start doing so. Click on this one. You have a lot of exercise and you can try to start solving this exercise. If you finish Remix, you can go to also to write. And right here, it's just a function design. I told you what's a function design. Here, either you're gonna just write your functions and write your test, or the opposite. In some cases, the test is written for you. You need to write the function. In some cases, the function is written and you need to write the tests. But it's the same idea exactly. Here, test-driven development. Here, it just the tests are written and you need to write the function. Review, don't go to review. Just work on one, then go to two, review here for next week. And here I've explained everything related to the first week. As I told you, you just need to do this example and this example, or this exercise. You try to finish them. There are a lot until the end of this week. Next week, we will just study a little bit how we can review the code. And of course, there is a repo to show you how to review the code to make sure that the code is linted correctly and stuff like that. I will explain it next week. And then whenever we are done, I will give you just a project. We have a project, and then you need just to work on 3 reviews as well. Is the idea clear?
Yes.
Any question?
No.
I'll stop sharing my screen and I will stop the recording.